Hello, my name is Rowlands and this is the Depersonalization and Derealization Deep Dive. Derealization and depersonalization is a disorder where a person feels detached from reality. Their personality isn't integrated into reality, they don't feel themselves anymore, they feel like they're living in a bubble and they can't connect with people in the world around them. In this video I'm going to talk about my own personal journey with derealization and depersonalization, and I'm here to tell you now that it can be fixed. I've fixed it, many other people have fixed it, and I'm here to show you how. So thanks for watching and I hope you enjoy. So I'm just going to talk about my own personal journey and personal story on kind of how I ended up getting derealization and depersonalization. So basically it all started around the age of 14 and I started at a new restaurant. I started working in a restaurant and all of a sudden I started feeling feelings of detachment and derealization, and I wasn't feeling quite myself. And this restaurant was quite busy and I was working part-time there, doing around 20 to 25 hours per week, which is obviously a lot of work considering that I was a student still at school. But regardless, like any 14, 15-year-old, they feel quite, superhuman, and they feel like they can do anything in the world. But I would probably go back a little bit and just discuss the fact that my diet from ever since I was young was very, very bad. I was basically brought up on ready meals and crisps and sweets and chocolate. In fact, I was actually known as a kind of a chocoholic in my family. And also I was a very, very high achiever. I was very willful and I always wanted to do the best. And because I was brought up with feelings of grandeur, I suppose, from being a very high achiever, I was always one to be very willful, and it was the same in my job. It was the same when I was doing sports, because I was a high achiever at sports and I would push and run myself ragged, and it was the same in the restaurant. I would do so much work, and it was the same as school. I would just do too much. And basically I started getting these feelings of detachment and derealization and depersonalization and just not feeling myself. It was a very strange experience. I remember some of it came on from smoking marijuana, but it was a gradual process really, that kind of started around the time that I was at work and I was starting to drink, and I was going around to my friend's house at night and smoking a little bit of marijuana, and I could feel this detachment. So at first, being by this time we're talking 15, 16, I thought it was a mental thing. But because I was young and I was male and I wasn't used to expressing my emotions, and I just thought that I was suffering from some mental issue. And because I was a high achiever, it was embarrassing for me to kind of tell people what was going off. And being so young, I didn't really understand what was going off. I just thought it was something wrong with me as a person, like most people do. So I basically carried on with my life and eating rubbish and over-exercising, overachieving, basically trying to do a lot of things in order to get myself out of it. I had the impression that if I was to do more, if I was to gain more, achieve more, exercise more, party harder, then I would somehow kind of get my personality back, or I would somehow become normal again by pushing myself and doing more. One of the issues that I thought I had was lack of confidence, because I had started getting acne and it really affected me, because I always used to be a confident person, and what I ended up doing is I ended up taking a drug called Htma, and it was a steroid drug. It was a pure form of vitamin A, and as many people know, anyone that's had Htma, you can get very, very serious side effects from it. But at the time I wasn't aware of that, I do remember feeling a lot more depressed and suicidal at times. I mean, it did clear up my acne, but I do believe that also contributed to my further decline in health. We're talking late 16s, early 17s when I was going through this particular process. So what I was doing more and more and more was I was exercising harder. I was going out doing 7 mile running every other day. I was doing parkour, which is a very high impact sport. Sometimes I would go out and do that 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I was playing semi-professional football, so I was pushing myself 3 or 4 times a week and playing on a Sunday. Again, still eating absolute rubbish. I remember at one point I was eating like half a loaf of bread, white bread, every single day. It was really, really bad. And because I was feeling so down, I actually started getting into recreational drugs. Things like cocaine, ecstasy. Those were the main two, and drinking a lot of alcohol. I was actually quite well known. It got well known for me after a while that I was able to take a lot of drugs and it wouldn't really affect me too much. Well, obviously it was affecting me, but now I realise that my body, my adrenal glands were just so burnt out that I didn't really have the response that a normal body would have when ingesting recreational drugs like that. I do remember, when I used to take drugs, I used to feel better. I used to feel more clear. My reality came back now and again, even if it was just for a short period of time, 15 minutes, half an hour. And that was a nice experience. I didn't really understand it at the time, but now I know that them drugs was actually pushing the adrenal glands, to an extent where it had no choice but to release some hormones and some cortisol, etc., that would temporarily make me feel clear again. But I'll speak about that later on in this video, on some of the reasons why we get derealization and depersonalization. So around 18, 19, I was, quite in despair. I mean, things were going really bad. This was a 24/7 thing now. I also had numerous other health issues. I had around 30 other different symptoms, ranging from eye problems, visual snow, to skin issues, eczema, racing thoughts, a lot of fear, terrible social anxiety, insomnia, easily bruised, bleeding gums, hair loss, after images, structural imbalances, you name it, I pretty much had it. So what I thought was, there's something wrong with my eyes. I had poor vision. I thought, well, the reason why I'm not integrating with the world is because my eyes must be bad. I had poor vision. I needed to wear glasses. I thought, well, maybe if I had laser eye treatment, that would fix the issue. So I ended up having laser eye treatment. That didn't work. So it was basically a downhill spiral. As I said, taking drugs did help a little bit. Another thing that helped was, now and again, if I would have a cigarette, that would clear my brain fog, which was very strange. Now I realise, which I'll talk about a little bit further on, is that smoking has a lot of cadmium inside of it, and cadmium pushes copper into the cells, and copper is a big source of brain derealization, and when it used to go into the cells I used to get clarity. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in the upcoming videos. So, 1920, I was at university. It was a complete mess. Obviously, you want to go to uni, enjoy yourself, be confident, meet girls, do this. Couldn't do any of that. Was really struggling with anxiety. I couldn't connect to people. I felt like I was living in a bubble. Still, I was overachieving, over-exercising. Obviously, at uni, I was eating rubbish, drinking, doing recreational drugs, staying up late, waking up early to do university work. I would push my university work. So it was basically a downhill spiral, but my mind, my natural willfulness was to push through. And that's how I thought I would get out of this mess. So I went to a psychiatrist. They told me I had low self-esteem. They put me on cognitive behavioural therapy. That didn't work. I did get some, it did help me to realise my negative thinking patterns, but A lot of the reasons now I realise that I had negative thinking patterns were because my body was so depressed, so exhausted, so malnourished that it basically made me feel that way. So I tried paleo diet, I tried vegetarian diet, I tried veganism, I tried eye supplementation, I tried all sorts of different things, and I just felt inside that there wasn't working. I nearly passed out doing the paleo diet. Vegan and vegetarianism made me feel even worse. The eye supplements didn't do anything. So it was basically a pretty bad time. You know, one of my worst experiences of my life was when I was at university, and that should, in many ways, be one of the best experiences of your life. So I remember when I was 21, and I remember the day, it was 21st of July, when I was 21, so that would have been 2011. And I read an article on brain fog by someone called Dr. Lawrence Wilson. And I'd never read anything like this before. How it was articulated, it resonated with me a lot. And I kind of just, it hit me at a soul level, really, what this guy was talking about. And I ended up starting what he has made and has developed, the Nutritional Balancing Program that I now teach to other people and help other people. And basically that was the start of my road to recovery. Now, it wasn't an easy road to recovery. In fact, it was very challenging and very difficult at times. But I pushed through it. And I'm glad I did push through it. I had many experiences. It transformed me on many levels, and it really taught me a lot about my situation, about derealization, depersonalization, brain fog, eye conditions, structural imbalances, hormones, sugar imbalances, minerals, toxic metals, chemicals. I learned a hell of a lot. I studied this day in, day out for 6 years. I'm 6 years down the line now. It's 2017. Ironically, it's coming up to the 21st of July. And basically this is why I'm doing this video now, is to teach people and help people and get people to understand that derealization and depersonalization isn't necessarily a mental problem. It's much more deeper than that and much more complex, and definitely people can overcome it. So that's the end of this section, and in the next sections I'm going to talk about what causes derealization and depersonalization, how to overcome it, some case studies, some scientific research on hair analysis, and how you can fix yourself as well. Thank you. Alright, so this next section I'm going to talk about what causes derealization and depersonalization. Now, this is quite a long list, and one of the reasons why, well, the biggest reason why people struggle to heal derealization, depersonalization, is because it's made up of many different layers. And basically what you've got to do is heal each layer, and you'll find that as a layer heals, you'll feel more connected and more vibrant and more clear-headed, and eventually you basically overcome derealization and depersonalization. Now, you'll be surprised that the vast majority of time it's quite physical. What I mean by that is it's physically orientated, either chemically, nutrition-wise, toxic metals, etc., rather than mental. Now, a lot of people think that it's mental, and in actual fact we find that, you know, a large percentage of the time it's not actually mental. So what I'm going to talk about is the main causes here, and hopefully it'll give you a much better understanding about derealization and depersonalization. So most people have had it for so long that in actual fact it starts to become normal. And this is very interesting because that also happened to me. I thought that it was a normal thing, but I knew that there was something that wasn't quite right going off with my brain, and I thought it was psychological, and the doctors kind of sent me to a psychologist in order to fix this thing, when in reality that wasn't the case. So one of the biggest causes of DP and DR is copper toxicity. It might be an excess of copper or something called biounavailable copper. Now what this causes, it causes copper toxicity causes confusion, it causes disorientation, it causes a racing mind, which is very common, mood swings, spaciness, you feel kind of like you're floating around. Women, for example, feel it more intensely around menstruation. That's because copper tends to rise naturally in the monthly cycles. And if women are using birth controls or IUDs, this can actually make the problem much, much worse. Now, copper also affects the thyroid gland, which is also a contributor to derealization. And one of the biggest problems with copper toxicity is that it's actually very, very hard to test for. If you have blood tests, for example, or even urine tests, very often it'll come back normal. We use hair mineral analysis, and even on a hair mineral analysis, we'll tend to find that if you have one, copper might be below ideal range. Now, obviously, this is very, very confusing as well, but we know from experience that there's other indicators on the hair analysis. For example, if someone is in a pattern called 4 lows or a calcium shell, or they're in sympathetic dominance, for example, we know that they're suffering from copper toxicity. And as they embark on a nutritional balancing program, after a few tests or a few months, what we'll find is the copper will rise up on the test. It's a very fascinating process. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, where does copper come from? And the biggest issue really is weak adrenal glands. Weak adrenal glands will cause an increase in copper toxicity, mainly because many of the calming minerals like zinc, magnesium, calcium, for example, are low, and this, especially zinc, because zinc and copper work together as like a team, and when zinc's low, copper tends to rise. Other things are vegetarian and vegan diets. They promote copper toxicity, zinc deficiency, what I've just talked about, stress, fatigue, food, water, and many others. So, a lot of people think, well, I must be having too much copper. It's not necessarily the case. A lot of the reasons why people get copper toxicity is because they have weak adrenals. Now, we know for a fact that copper is very, very much related with things like schizophrenia and bipolar. And as many people know, schizophrenia literally detaches a person from reality, same in bipolar. There's been many cases actually where schizophrenic people have been on a nutritional balancing program, and we have reduced their copper and the schizophrenia has actually disappeared. Very, very interesting. So copper tends to rise up and it tends to cause spaciness and a detachment from reality. And many vegans and vegetarians actually think that they're becoming more spiritual, they're becoming more spaced out, they're becoming more connected, when unfortunately the vast majority of the time it's actually a copper toxicity. And I've had lots of vegetarians and vegans who have come to me and said that, and as we've kind of reduced the copper, they'll become more clearer and grounded, and they'll kind of realise that there's actually a much more better, more grounded way of approaching life. So that's one of the biggest one. I also suffered from extreme copper toxicity, very, very much a very big racing mind, difficult to concentrate, very ungrounded, very up in the air. So I have a deep understanding of how copper toxicity can detach you from reality. A lot of people actually they have copper personalities, and they actually are very, very sensitive to the world. Many copper toxic people are empathic people, and what they do is their body will subconsciously use copper as a detachment from reality because they cannot handle reality, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But basically it's all about seeking the truth, finding who you are inside and what your character is inside, and will generally find that their natural copper personality will be more integrated into the world, and that's something that I had to learn as well. So other toxic metals are aluminium. Aluminium is very, very common today, aluminium toxicity. It causes a kind of forgetfulness. It numbs the mind a little bit. Anyone that forgets things definitely will be suffering from aluminium toxicity. Cadmium, a lot in cigarette smoke, marijuana smoking, causes a dullness, a heaviness, a detachment from reality. Lead, obviously everyone knows how toxic lead is. Lead gets its way into the body, affects the mind, also causes a detachment. Mercury, very, very, very common today. You find a lot of mercury in the seas, unfortunately, and in fish. And that will also affect the brain and cause DP and DR. Another one's manganese. If you know the Mad Hatter, what used to happen is back in the old days, they would line hats with manganese, and it would cause a person to be quite mad, and that's why they call it the Mad Hatter. It's interesting. So nutritional balancing can remove all of these toxic metals, thankfully. It's very important to hit things at all angles in order to reduce derealization and depersonalization, because there's many more angles that we need to get to, and I'm going to go through it now. So the toxic metals can come from car interiors, upholstery, plastic equipment, lawn chemicals, paints, chemicals, inks, pesticides, insecticides in food, water supply, pollution, and many, many others. So we're literally surrounded by these toxic metals at the moment, and when we look at hair tests, we're very surprised how much toxic metals are in a person. Often, a lot of the times, we don't see many toxic metals on the test, and this is because the body doesn't have the energy and the vitality to remove toxic metals from the body. And what we find is when a person follows a nutritional balancing program, their energy will start to increase, and the body will start to kick out these toxic metals and toxic chemicals from the body, and they'll rise on a hair analysis. Another thing that we see on a hair analysis is something called a calcium shell. So when the body's stressed, basically it increases its calcium in the tissues and creates like a protective shell around the body and in the brain. And this causes diminished awareness, it causes heaviness, it causes depression, it causes mental fatigue and a detachment from reality, because the body's kind of protecting itself. A lot of people have literally had calcium shell for years and years and years, and they just think it's normal. When the calcium starts to rise down on a hair analysis, as a person follows a nutrition balancing program, a person starts to feel connected to the world a bit, and it starts to become strange for a person because they haven't experienced that very often. But it's very, very important to do in order for you to stop feeling these detached feelings. Another issue is bowel toxicity. Improperly, everyone's got digestive issues today. It's across the board. A lot of issues is mainly from stress and weak adrenal glands, liver toxicity, etc., etc. And what happens is we get improper digested foods, which putrefy and ferment in the bowel. And these cause powerful toxins like indoles, scatols, which poison the liver, and these actually start to migrate into the brain, and they cause a detached feeling, and they cause derealization and depersonalization. One thing that makes things 10 times worse is constipation. A lot of people take 2 days, 3 days to go to the toilet. Transit time really should take between 8 and 20 hours. Anyone that's having longer than that is definitely suffering from constipation. Obviously, if you're constipated, this is going to cause foods to putrefy and ferment, and these get into the brain and affect the brain a lot. Other problems with bowel, and I see this time and time again, is people who eat too much fruit. Fruit will really cause havoc on the digestive system for complex reasons. A lot more problematic today for reasons that I'm going to talk about next. But I see the people with the worst digestion are actually people that used to be on fruitarian diets. I have a lot of people that come to me that have come from fruitarian diets, and they have the worst digestion from most people. Infections also cause bowel toxicity. Stress, poor eating habits, and actually negative emotions can also affect this. The next thing is something called yin disease. Now, before people think I'm going airy-fairy and a bit woo-woo, all I'm talking about here is balance. Yin and yang are excellent ways of discussing balance. Everything in the universe, everything in the world, everything has a balance. So we need to think about balance in terms of healing a person. And we find that the bodies today are too yinly out of balance. So what things are yin? Well, fruit is very yin. Fruit is high growing food. It's very sweet, it's very sugary. Yin is kind of chaotic, it's sugary, it's sweet. Yang is more grounded, it's hotter, it's more dense. Yin is more expanded. Yin is more creative. Yang is more linear. Left and right brain, you can see them as yin and yang. So the body basically is built on yin and yang. So fruit, high, sweet, more yin. Yang, root vegetables in the ground, they're more yang. Vegetarian diets tend to be more yin, and vegan diets even more yin. Drinking alkaline water will tend to yin the body out. Even distilled and reverse osmosis waters are more yin. Smoking marijuana creates a yin body. Too much sex and fluid loss will actually cause a person to become more yin. And things like too much travel, staying up late, stressing the body. Toxic metals are actually yang in nature. However, when they get into the body, they cause chaos, and basically it causes a person to become more yin. So basically all I'm talking about is balance, and most people's bodies are far too yin. In nutritional balancing, we are very, very much aware of this, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't heal today, is because they don't understand the importance of balance. So if someone's more yin, what do? We go more yang. You have to go the opposite in order to finally come into balance. So the opposite of yang, so we do things like sauna therapy. We're very hot, very parasympathetic. So that's a yang therapy. Coffee enemas is, coffee is very dark, which is yang. It is warm. It is lower down in the body. Yang. We have a lot of vegetables, root vegetables, which are yang in nature. Rest is more yang. Heavy exercise is more yin. So you get the idea on that one. So adrenal burnout and low thyroid are going to cause derealization, depersonalization. Many people are suffering from adrenal burnout. This is a much more deeper derangement of the adrenal glands. Fatigue you can go on a vacation, have a week or even 2 weeks rest, feel fine. Adrenal fatigue, adrenal burnout is a much more deeper deranged thing that can take months and even years to fix. This causes low energy, low hormones, and it makes a person become more nutritionally depleted. This can all affect the brain and cause derealization and depersonalization. Now, what usually happens with adrenal burnout is it causes secondary reactions, and these are actually often even more of an issue for feelings of detachment. So thyroid imbalance is a secondary reaction. Usually the issue with thyroid imbalances is what happens when it's struggling. It gets an increase of copper and mercury within the thyroid, and it causes it to weaken. Other things are iodine antagonists like fluorine and bromine and chlorine compounds. They all affect the thyroid, and they can actually cause symptoms of derealization, depersonalization. Another issue is chronic candida. This also occurs when the adrenal glands are weak. The adrenal glands need to be highly functionable to kind of balance out candida. Also, copper, what I talked about earlier, is a natural anti-fungi, and basically when it's not balanced properly within the body, candida gets out of balance. Now, candida thrives within the brain, and it releases alcohol and other toxins into the bloodstream and into the brain, and this can sit on the brain, thrive on the brain, and it can cause feelings of you can even feel drunk, you can feel detached, you can feel foggy, and even when the candida dies off, you can even feel drunk as well, because it's releasing all these toxins. So you need to be aware of that as well, that when candida dies off, there might also be feelings of detachment temporarily as it dies off. Another very, very, very common thing is hypoglycemia. Basically, hypoglycemia occurs when the adrenals are weak, and the brain literally gets starved of sugars. This causes things like confusion, irritability, forgetfulness, blackouts in people, derealization, depersonalization, a detached feeling. Fixing hypoglycemia is much more simple if people would just cut out simple carbohydrates, simple sugars, and stick to kind of things like more cooked vegetables and some good quality protein, for example. Basically, people got a hypoglycemia where blood sugar's just going up and down, up and down, up and down all day long, and they wonder why they're constantly feeling out of sorts and detached. Other issues is food and chemical allergies, perchlorate, which is found in water, lecithin, NutraSweet, MSG, bacterial and fungal issues, fluoride, chlorine, food allergies. The most common ones are wheat, spelt, soy, cow's milk, gluten-containing foods like rye, oats, wheat, Htma, spelt and barley. These are all irritants to the body, and people are actually starting to get allergic to these foods and they're allergic to the many chemicals that people get in foods and water these days. These just go straight to the brain and cause effects in the brain and can cause detachment and derealization effects. Other issues are pharmaceutical drugs. These can often cause brain fog. Many of them are toxic. They get into the liver, they get into the bloodstream, and they just really wreak havoc on the brain. Many people today are actually deficient in nutrients. They're deficient in good quality protein. They're deficient in high quality fats, starches, vitamins, 24 or more minerals. Basically, you need to realize that the brain is a chemical organ. It is made of minerals, it is made of vitamins, it is made of omegas and fats and you know, all these different things that make up the brain. It is literally a chemical organ. A lot of the medical industry today see the brain as psychological. Oh, if you've got an issue with the brain, it's psychological. When in reality, a lot of the time, it's physical. The brain needs proper nutrients. It needs proper proteins. It needs proper, good quality fats. You know, and people are just malnourished these days. Terrible diets, terrible stress, pollution, toxic metals. You know, you name it, people are eating it, and it's causing really big problems on the brain. Other issues are hidden viral infections, Epstein-Barr, for example, hepatitis C. These kind of lay dormant in the body because the body hasn't got the energy to fix the issue. These kind of subliminal kind of viruses and infections that affect the body. Affect the mind, and can also cause, this is also another layer, brain parasites like Lyme disease, trichina, fish tapeworm eggs, all these things that we call, a lot of these actually yin parasites or yin organisms, and they thrive in a yin body, in a cold body. And basically, you know, all you've got to do to kind of heal this is go more yang, heat up the body, give the body some energy, some vitality, and basically create an environment where these parasites cannot function. Now, taking drugs for parasites is very difficult to get rid of. The reason being, it just doesn't go deep enough into the cells. Also, if the adrenal glands are not functioning right and the liver isn't functioning right, you can't really get rid of parasites. So a nutritional balancing program does get deep enough to kill all the parasites. It can be a slow process, but it's very much worth doing. And by creating a good environment for the body, these parasites just cannot thrive. Another issue which is much less understood is EMFs. EMFs is basically electromagnetic frequencies. These are getting, you know, thousands and thousands of percent higher than what they would be in the environment. So electromagnetic stress comes from things like Wi-Fi devices, 4G, 5G, electronic transistors. You can get it from bedside lamps, house wiring, cars, you name it. EMF is getting kicked out these days. EMF causes a lot of problems on the body. You might not be aware of it yet, but I can assure you now it causes a hell of a lot of problems. I suffered from extreme EMF sensitivity. It was so extreme that I couldn't even have a Wi-Fi router on. I couldn't watch TV. I had to sleep in an aluminium Faraday cage for 6 or 7 months until I released some of the issues that was causing EMF sensitivity. The biggest issue for EMF sensitivity we find is copper. Copper acts as an antennae for the body, in the body, and it kind of amplifies the EMFs. Also, when the body's stressed from EMF, we get a calcium shell. Calcium shells harden the cells and make the EMF waves more difficult to pass through, so it basically hardens the cells and makes the cells shake, and you get feelings of EMFs. So very important. We at Deep Healing Space are experts on EMF sensitivity, so if anyone feels like they're suffering from it, let me know. A lack of grounding can cause brain fog. Grounding is a very interesting subject where a person literally doesn't feel connected to the earth anymore. The body does have an electrical system, and what I was talking about yin and yang, yin is much more grounded, spaced out, and a person literally feels like they're walking on stilts. They don't feel connected and grounded to the earth. There's not many ways actually of getting grounded, and the nutritional balancing program is the best way of doing it, and something that we call the pushing down exercise, which helps a person reconnect and pull energy down in order for a person to get connected to the ground. Anyone that's not connected to the ground can feel detached, can feel spaced out, can not feel connected to the earth and people around them. So there's a few psychological causes for brain fog. One thing is unresolved traumas. Many people have traumas from their past that are not resolved. Another thing is not wanting to see the world. It is actually related somewhat to copper toxicity and the copper personality that I was talking about earlier. Empaths don't want to see the world for what it is, which is understandable. The world is very harsh. There's a lot of illness out there. There's a lot of people that don't love each other, so people don't like to see that. And what we teach in nutritional balancing is to try and seek the truth, find out who you are by healing yourself, building character, and living for the truth and in truth, and you'll generally find that's the key to happiness. Some other people will genuinely think they're stupid. This will numb the brain, numb the mind. We believe in nutritional balancing that a lot of this is a result of heavy metals and toxic chemicals that makes a person feel stupid. Negative thinking is another issue. Again, mercury, cadmium, copper, arsenic, low energy, low thyroid, low adrenal glands can kind of cause negative thinking. But a lot of people sometimes have negative thinking from birth for various different reasons that need to be worked on, understood and resolved. So there is a few other causes for derealization, depersonalization. Chiropractic, structural problems. The structure can be slightly misaligned. This can also affect the brain and cause a detached feeling, especially the C1 and C2 at the back of the brain, at the back of the neck. So we all recommend chiropractic care. Reduced oxygen intake. Many people have a kind of hunched over posture. They don't get enough oxygen inside of them. They live in a city. They don't have any oxygenation within their house. Live with their windows shut, for example. Very rarely, derealization can be caused by brain tumours, epilepsy, things like meningitis. Another rare issue is vision problems. Things like visual snow can cause derealization and detachment. Dyslexia, autism. We find autism is very much linked with mercury toxicity. Poor circulation is another cause. Kidney problems. And what I talked about earlier is too much sex. You'll be surprised, men and even some women, that the more you ejaculate, it can make you feel detached. The biggest reason why is semen is actually full of zinc. Zinc is needed to make a person feel grounded and more clear, and to keep copper in balance. I've experienced a lot of derealization, depersonalization, and brain fog and confusion when I used to ejaculate too much. So that's very, very important. If you want to really fix and heal DP and DR, it's very important to reduce the amount that you orgasm. Okay, so that's everything. A long, long list. Now you understand the reasons why it's very, very difficult to get rid of derealization, depersonalization. I had to go through many, many different layers. I had many, many of these problems when I was healing derealization, depersonalization. Luckily, the Nutritional Balancing Program is amazing at hitting everything at once. This is why the reason why if you do kind of supplement, if you take supplements, or if you do too much exercise to try and fix it, or you just focus on your diet, you don't quite hit the nail on the head. This takes a holistic approach, so it's very, very much important to understand that coming at it from all angles is the trick to heal derealization and depersonalization. Alright guys, thanks for watching this section, and in the next section I'm going to talk about some of the patterns that we see on hair mineral analysis, and I'm going to talk to you about some case studies and some testimonials of people that have started a nutritional balancing program, healed derealization and depersonalization, and I'm going to talk about how you can too. Okay, so in this section I'm going to go over some hair analysis tests and just kind of show you some correlations and trends that we find with people who've got derealization, depersonalization. I'm going to focus it more towards DP/DR and brain fog,
You know, there's a lot more other information that I can get from these hair analysis tests, but for this particular video, I'm going to focus on derealization. Now, we tend to find that copper toxicity is always related somewhat to derealization, depersonalization. On this particular test, as you can see, is at a high level here. It's at 9.6. That's pretty high. That means that there's a lot of toxic copper coming out of the body. On other tests, which you'll see, the copper level often isn't that high. We have to look at other indicators which proves or shows that copper is within the body, you know, causing chaos. Copper toxicity, copper imbalance has many different things attached to it. You know, it causes a lot of spaciness. It causes detachment from reality. It causes a person to become schizophrenic, bipolar on the extreme end of the scale. But it's very much related with derealization and depersonalization on pretty much all cases. This one obviously is very visible. I remember saying to this client, you know, I think you've got copper toxicity, and obviously, you know, you can see quite clearly that he has. This particular client told me that brain fog was a big issue, but I've added this test in here because brain fog is pretty much the same as derealization. There's a detachment from reality. A lot of people just don't know the terminology for derealization, but brain fog would definitely fit under that category. Another thing that we're seeing here is this person's in what's called a free lows pattern. So anyone that's in a free lows pattern like this tends to push themselves too much. They tend to be doers and running around. What that tends to do is it stresses out the body, it weakens the adrenal glands, and you get, like, you know, high copper, toxic metals, sugar imbalances, etc., which is, you know, contributes to the derealization and depersonalization. Moving down, you can see this person's suffering from some aluminium toxicity and some mercury toxicity. I know that these other toxic metals are low, but I can guarantee you now that they're quite high in large amounts in the body. We know that for anyone that's suffering from a free lows pattern, or we find that the heavy metals are very low, we know that this stored up inside the body, that's also causing problems. But aluminium, that's kind of numb. It kind of numbs a person to the world. People that are forgetful, people that are a bit spaced out are often aluminium toxic. Mercury has a lot to do with kind of really dull thinking and a little bit manic, a little bit mad. It's just a very toxic metal, and it causes a lot of poison in the brain, especially. So this is I just wanted to highlight the copper on this particular test, because I think it's very important. It's very visible. But on other tests, there is copper toxicity, but it's more hidden away. So this is another test. However, you can see on this one that the copper level isn't as high. However, this person is also suffering from a free lows pattern. So this one, and this one. You know, three of these first four minerals, when they're below the ideal level, which is here, if there's three of them below the ideal level, we call that a three lows pattern. So again, this person's pushing himself too much, overusing his fight or flight response. You know, is a doer. However, when anyone's in a three lows pattern, we know that there's hidden copper inside the body. Always the case with anyone that's in a three lows pattern. So this person is also suffering from a copper imbalance that has a lot to do with derealization and depersonalization. Low iron as well, which has a lot to do with anemia. This person showing mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and aluminium. All again will contribute to derealization and depersonalization. So moving on to the next one. Okay, so this guy's got a calcium shell. This is another interesting pattern with anyone that's got uh, derealization, depersonalization. Basically, the calcium will numb a person to the world. When a person's stressed, um, whether it be from diet, from work, from relationships, etc., sometimes a lot of sensitive people will tend to have calcium shell. Basically, the body puts up a protective shell or defense mechanism, and the calcium tissue level will rise in the body. And what it does, it causes a person to become quite withdrawn and quite numb, and it detaches a person from reality a little bit. So so this can cause derealization, depersonalization. It's one of the other common hair analysis patterns that we see in people. So I just wanted to highlight that one. Again, this person's showing lead, very, very dull. It gives a very, very dull feel into the mind and the body. It does lead. Same with aluminium as well. This person's showing what we call spiritual defensiveness. So there's a lifestyle issue in this person's life that's causing some issues in their life. Um, Possibly one of the reasons why the calcium level is so high is because there's some lifestyle problem here that needs dealing with in order for this person to move forward on a nutritional balancing program. So on this particular one, again, calcium shell. I should also mention that anyone who's got a calcium shell is also suffering from a hidden copper. So it's like the previous test that I showed you. That person would also be suffering from hidden copper as well. I also want to point out that every single hair analysis is showing adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue lowers the energy and the vitality of a person, and this just by lowering the energy of a person can cause feelings of detachment and derealization and depersonalization. This person's vitality is very low. Phosphorus is a very good indicator of vitality, so they're feeling, they haven't got the spark of life that many people would like in their everyday goings on. But what's really interesting about this particular test is just how high some of these toxic metals are. Now, nickel is a very, very nasty metal. It has a lot to do with suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies, dullness, and it can obviously detach a person from reality as well. Same with the aluminium, that's quite a high reading for aluminium there. And again, we've got arsenic, cadmium, mercury. All of these are going to be contributing towards derealization and depersonalization, which is not nice at all. So that's pretty much everything. I just wanted to cover the main kind of ones, which are copper toxicity, calcium shell. We get a 3 lows pattern, or we often get a 4 lows pattern when all 4 of these first macro minerals are below. These can all contribute to derealization, depersonalization, as well as all these toxic metals. And we can also see other indicators down here. The calcium magnesium ratio, for example, if this is quite high, we know that a person is generally overeating on too many carbohydrates and sugars. So, as I mentioned earlier on the video, that sugar imbalance can also give you feelings towards derealization, depersonalization. There's other indicators, low NAK, for example, that's got a lot to do with energy and protein synthesis, and just feeling pretty much down in the dumps. That kind of reduces the energy of a person, and the brain is affected as a result, which can give you feelings of detachment. Slow oxidation. This basically means it's very similar to metabolism. So anyone that's got slow oxidation, the slower the oxidation, the slower the body's functioning, the slower it can react to stress. and basically in general, the slower the digestion, the slower the adrenal output, the slower the thyroid, and all this can have massive effects on the brain, which contributes to feelings of derealization and depersonalization. So in all cases, I always see copper toxicity in pretty much in every single case of derealization, depersonalization. There's always as well heavy metals and toxic chemicals, which we can't see on the hair analysis, but the nutritional balancing program will slowly remove all the toxic chemicals as well. There is other indicators that are not seen on every single test, like you've seen, like the calcium shell, 3 lows pattern, 4 lows pattern, some high patterns as well, which I haven't shown you, 3 highs, 4 highs. They can also cause it as well. So yeah, that's this section. I hope it's opened your eyes a little bit to how incredibly powerful the hair analysis tests can be. And in the next section, I'm going to talk to you about how you can overcome derealization, depersonalization. So in this section, I'm going to talk about some derealization, depersonalization case studies. I've got quite a few case studies to talk about. I've cherry-picked a few of the ones that I find most helpful for a lot of people. They are from different backgrounds, so some people have pharmaceutical abuse, some people get it from being extremely sensitive to the world around them for the most part, and they don't feel like they fit in, which causes slight detachment. Others are from poor lifestyle choice and diet, and others are from various different lifestyle choices. Um, some of them are a little bit long. I've left them long on purpose, so just so people can get as much information as possible. If you want to skip forward a little bit, that's absolutely fine. But I do believe that these will be really helpful, so it's important to listen to them all from start to finish. So the first one is from Rachel A. in Louisiana. I grew up on the typical American diet, which didn't include a lot of vegetables. It was high in processed goods, high in sugar, and I ate conventional meat. I would eat fast food at least once a week. I would get chronic sinus infections, which would always end up turning into bronchitis. I've taken so many rounds of antibiotics I cannot even count. I became a vegetarian around the age of 14 and then a vegan at the age of 16. I still ate processed junk and a lot of grains. I think bread was the staple of my diet. I also started smoking at the age of 16. I started to heavily smoke at the age of 18, a half a pack a day sometimes, a whole pack on nights out with friends. It was horrible. I was not a heavy drinker since I would get tipsy easily. I would occasionally smoke weed and trip on mushrooms and acid. My mother is an alcoholic, so I had a lot of stress from her, but other than that, I had a good childhood. When I first experienced the onset of derealization, it came with a slew of other symptoms. It also happened out of nowhere and suddenly. I was 20 years old. One day I was fine, and then all of a sudden it felt like I was in a dream, and I was disconnected with reality. I just didn't feel grounded, and everything looked weird and alien to me. I started to experience a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, despair, more orientated in the fact I didn't know what was wrong with me. Eye floaters, obsessive/racing thoughts, after images, sensitivity to light, ringing in the ears, aching all over, especially the kidney area, and digestive issues. I feel like I'm leaving some of the symptoms out, but these are the main ones. I suffered like this for about 3 years. I quit smoking and drinking late into being 21, all the while obsessively searching on Google trying to find out what was wrong with me. I tried a few different healing modalities, diet modifications and cleanses. I didn't improve and I was gradually getting sicker. I was losing weight drastically and my hair was falling out. I had so much fear coursing through me. During these 3 years, I was afraid of my thoughts. It was the scariest thing I've ever been through. I eventually stumbled upon Dr. Wilson's site and I finally felt like I wasn't going crazy and would have committed. I met with a practitioner in my area and immediately dived into the program. After about 3 months in, I felt wonderful. My DP/DR went away and my skin glowed. It has come back occasionally but doesn't last long and is not as intense. I'm sure it's from detoxing whatever was causing it. That's quite an interesting testimonial. We generally find a lot of people get derealization and depersonalization that have come from a vegetarian and vegan background. Obviously, I wish that wasn't the case. However, it seems to be the truth on pretty much all occasions. What it tends to do is it tends to increase copper toxicity in the body, and that's a leading cause of derealization, depersonalization. It seems like Rebecca healed this pretty quick after about 3 months. So, that's actually very, very quick for a lot of people. Some people it can take a little bit longer. But anyway, it's a fantastic testimonial, and we'll move on to the next. So the next one's from Keith V in California. Prior to starting the nutritional balancing program, I had terrible brain fog. I couldn't think straight. I was spacey. My mind was so weak I couldn't read a book. I had so much copper in my brain that it felt like small rocks or pebbles were in my brain. I had to eventually drop out of school because I was so bad. After starting the nutritional balancing program, my symptoms have disappeared. My mind is stronger, my thinking is clearer, and I couldn't have imagined it to be better. I am forever grateful for nutritional balancing. My brain function improved and my clouded thinking disappeared on the full nutritional balancing program. But the selenium-rich foods, boneless, skinless sardines and organic blue corn chips, and the recommended amount of lamb loin chops helped the recovery of my mental functioning more quickly. Now, I do need to make people aware that anyone that's suffering from brain fog is also suffering from derealization and depersonalization. Brain fog slightly detaches a person and makes reality feel less real. So it's in the same category as derealization and depersonalization. Again, Keith has done excellent on the program. I'm really happy that his symptoms have disappeared. And yes, eating the foods, especially lamb, which has a lot of zinc inside of it, which tends to help with copper imbalance, definitely speeds people up in terms of their recovery. So the next one is from Anastasia M. I had a history of extensive benzo use/abuse in the early 2000s. I took Xanax, Valium by the handful. In 2004, I tried quitting cold turkey. On day 4, started experiencing severe psychosis, along with intense derealization and depersonalization. I wanted to run out of my skin, far, far away from entrapment by my inflamed mind. My psyche felt like a live wire. I had suicidal thoughts, complete inability to function/deal with reality. On day 6, I realised I wasn't going to make it if I continued down the cold turkey route. The withdrawal symptoms were simply unbearable. I went back onto benzos, designed my own weaning schedule, and gradually got off them entirely over the span of a year. Later on, I occasionally resorted to small dose of Valium as a sleep aid, given my frequent wired and tired state that tended to interfere with my sleep. In 2012, just over a year into the nutrition balancing program, I retraced the benzo withdrawal, complete with all of those nasty psych disturbance symptoms. Saunas and coffee enemas would bring on the psychosis/derealization/depersonalization within minutes of administration. I struggled to function on a daily basis, spent hours curled up on the couch in fetal position, bawling my eyes out in despair. Going out was an impossibility. I was on a complete psych overload. This lasted for some weeks, which felt like a painful eternity. Then, like all detox reactions, things cleared up and the debilitating symptoms disappeared. So that's an interesting testimonial because this one has more to do with healing reactions that happen on the nutritional balancing program. Sometimes people don't experience too much derealization, depersonalization. However, when they start detoxing, they might experience it temporarily, and that's very, very, very important to understand because we don't want people to get scared off when they have a healing reaction. So I have added this testimonial in there just to show you. Anastasia obviously was suffering from a lot of toxic pharmaceutical abuse that was stored up in various tissues and in the liver and in the brain. And she obviously did a really good job of weaning herself off it, but there was a lot of toxicity still inside the body that needed to come out. As she was doing the nutritional balancing program, which is primarily a detox program, when the body got to a stage where it was ready to remove the toxic pharmaceuticals, she re-experienced some of the debilitating symptoms that occurred, and she pushed through it, and things cleared up and her health improved. So that's an important testimonial that I wanted to add in there. So the next one is from Dan P. So this is quite a long one. Dan did have some poor lifestyle choices, but I think that one of the reasons why I've added this particular testimonial in is because a lot of people get derealization, depersonalization, that think more spiritually. that think about the universe a little bit too much, which is fine, but if you do it in a kind of obsessive compulsive way, or if you're very, very, very sensitive to the world around you, like a lot of spiritually oriented people are, you can feel a sense of detachment and derealization, depersonalization. A lot of people that are more spiritually oriented, like you'll see in this testimonial, tend to do things that make these feelings more intense. However, a lot of people promote them. So, for example, psychoactive drugs, certain diets, juicing, etc. They could actually make a very sensitive person even more sensitive, believe it or not. But a lot of these healing modalities are actually promoted in that particular area or field. So it's a complex situation for a lot of people. So anyone that's suffering from this type of derealization will enjoy this particular testimonial. So, some of my first feelings of depersonalization, derealization began with the experience of night terrors as a young child. These extraordinarily frightening episodes are nightmares that one cannot awaken from. Oftentimes, one will appear awake and even scream, sweat, and flail around. However, one is still entrapped within the realm of dreams. The memories were so disturbing that they are suppressed, and I can't access them directly. They occurred between the age of 6 and 10, but the feeling is what I remember so strongly. It was only much later in my teenage years and later when I began to experiment with psychoactive substances that these effects would return. In high school, marijuana especially caused the world to feel completely strange and unreal at times. However, this is also merely a symptom of extreme focus or being in a flow state, so I can't say for certain. Again, later in college and following it, I was to have the most intense experiences of derealization and depersonalization. During college, I began to meditate frequently, which helped me make peace with my life more. However, I had poor health habits, including smoking tobacco and marijuana, taking drugs, drinking large amounts of caffeine, drinking alcohol, staying up late and not getting enough sleep, and often low quality nutrition. As well, my lifestyle was very stressful, trying to attend college classes, practice piano several hours a day, and cope with the ending of a serious intimate relationship. As I become more adept at meditating, I was fond of combining it with various substances. On one occasion, when my roommate was absent, I decided to intensely meditate for hours on end all weekend. I didn't realise how detached and unhappy with life I already was to be doing such things, but my spirit was so desperate to be anywhere but here. For 3 days, I spent the majority of the day laying and meditating. I took different psychedelic and dissociative substances each day to identify the process. I intensify the process. I fell asleep while in meditative state and woke hours later in the same state with perfect awareness. I did not perceive any fluctuations or dreams. My entire body was strongly pulsing with etheric energy. This feeling was so desirable that I decided to do it for a third day. However, this time I experienced a harsh psychic breakthrough that is rather difficult to explain. However, it was following this event that I was to experience the worst of my symptoms. I had forced my subtle energy in ways that it was not ready to flow, and had certainly done damage to the higher energy centers. I was able to attend my classes, do my work, and live my life, but it was all very detached. I had the feeling that everything was a projection or a dream, and that none of it held much significance. Oddly, underneath this, I still held the realization that reality is real. So it was very disconcerting. In fact, under the surface, I was depressed and anxious about life, though on the conscious level, I was calm, cool, and collected. Larry Wilson was one of the first I've heard say so firmly that drugs interfere with development. Everyone else in the field I had studied would exempt and or promote certain substances such as coffee, moderate alcohol, marijuana, natural psychedelics, herbs, etc. His hard stance had an impression on me, and I was very sick of all these different substances and how they had wrecked my body and mind. So I discontinued all the psychoactives and began with the free program of nutritional balancing. I was sleeping early and long, eating well, doing the down meditation, and using coffee enemas. I began to feel more grounded than I had in years. In fact, it wasn't since before I was a teenager, at least. It was also very challenging and depressing. However, as I thought about my many years of improper living, and as I witnessed those around me in poor health, I wanted to offer everyone nutritional balancing, yet I knew most would not be interested in following through with what is necessary to heal. There are times that I followed the nutritional balancing method of living more closely or less closely. However, I know I will never revert to living the way that I used to. I feel strongly that anyone experiencing these symptoms of depersonalization and/or derealization could improve significantly by using hair mineral analysis to determine the way to balance their ratios using vitamin supplements, proper diet, lifestyle, and proper meditation. Overall, I'm grateful that my experience of DPN/DARL did not develop into a more serious ailment such as schizophrenia. Moreover, I learned a lot from the discomfort of those states. I hope that more individuals that suffer from DPN/DLL can get relief by developing themselves into more conductive vessels for the spirit, which desires to grow and flourish joyfully through the physical body. All individuals are very real and have wonderful purpose to fulfill on this planet. So that's a very interesting testimonial. Obviously, Dan is a very, very spiritually oriented person. You see a lot of spiritually oriented people, but what happens is they tend to do things that are more yin in nature. Yin and yang are just ideas or ways of looking at balance. Generally, people that are more spiritually sensitive will do yin things because it makes them feel more spiritual and it sounds more spiritual. So yin things is kind of pushing the energy upwards when you meditate. It can be using psychoactive drugs, psychedelics, things like juicing, things like kombucha, etc. Vegan diets. You see a lot of spiritual oriented people that tend to do these types of healing modalities, but a lot of these people are suffering from derealization and depersonalization. The biggest issue is that a lot of people's bodies today are already too yin, so adding more yin on top of that will create slight detachments from reality. Now, a lot of these people tend to feel that these feelings are actually making them more spiritual, and so they keep doing them and doing them and doing them. When in reality, what really it's doing is it's just causing a person to become less grounded and less in touch with themselves and their body and their mind and spirit. So, what Dan's done is he's realized this at a deep level. He's followed the advice of the Nutritional Balancing Program, which creates a much more yang body. So now he feels much more grounded in reality, which is very, very important, but obviously is still very spiritual in his outlook towards life. All right, so that's the written testimonials. I have one video testimonial to show you, and then we're going to move on to some of the mineral patterns and ratios that we see on a nutritional balancing program.
Hi, my name is Raquel, and I would like to share real quick about something that I have experienced with nutritional balancing. When I first started nutritional balancing about 2 years ago, to be exactly when I had my first hair analysis, but just especially the past year, I struggled a lot. Well, it was actually more last year, in 2016, where I struggle a lot with what is called the realization. It's like when you're detoxing the heavy metals and everything that we're going through on nutritional balancing, you feel disconnected from reality. You feel like you see everything. You see things in the world as like you don't belong to it, and like you're looking at it from an outside. That's how I can describe it, and it was scary. And I didn't know what I was going through last year when I did experience this. Um, so it felt like that, like being in space, like floating, like looking at, I don't know, like if you don't belong to this world kind of thing and feeling. It was just weird, and it kind of came. It happened on and off, on and off. And now I see, like, depending on the heavy metals that I was detoxing, it's a very deep feeling and sensation. So I just wanted to share with you that is part of develop the development that we go through with nutritional balancing. And it's, I'm still learning, I'm still recovering, I'm still going through the process. I'm embracing it now. I am accepting it. I'm open to healing. I'm open to this detox effects and sensations and feelings and everything. I used to be very afraid of it last year, but now I'm just open to the experience and very thankful. So you're not alone if you're going through this. Um, and well, it's a journey, so I just wanted to share my little experience with it. Have a blessed day.
Alright, to finish off this small docu-film, I am going to just go over the recovery process for derealization, depersonalization, and brain fog. So, as I'm sure you've already kind of found out, if you've watched the video this long, the main aspect of healing is to get a hair mineral analysis, and we use a particular lab in America called Analytical Labs. They do not wash the hair, which is very important for an accurate result. So you've got to be very, very careful where you get a hair and mineral analysis from. And you need to ensure that the practitioner really deeply understands how to read a hair analysis for you to really extract as much information as possible. As you've seen from the hair analysis section, often copper is low on a hair analysis test. However, there are other indicators involved which tells us that there's hidden biounavailable copper a lot of the time inside of the body. For anyone that's not a professional reading these tests, it's very easy just to think that everything's fine. Low metal readings, for example, on a hair analysis test, often actually based upon other hair mineral patterns, we know that there's actually quite a lot of metals in there that just are not coming out of the body, basically. So it's really important to understand that the hair analysis needs to be done properly and it needs to be done by a professional. However, what I'm going to do is tell you the brief overview of the Nutritional Balancing Program. I'm going to talk about how the layers involved in derealization is related to the Nutritional Balancing Program and how the program manages to kind of overcome them layers. As I'm sure you've realized, this is a holistic approach to healing, so we need to come at it at all angles. It's not a case of taking a supplement or changing the diet or even doing a bit of detox. Everything works together as one to unwind all these many different layers that are involved in DP and DR. So the main aspect of the program is around 9 cups of cooked vegetables throughout the day. It's really important to cook the vegetables so you can extract as much minerals as possible. Cooking the vegetables densifies the food as well so you can eat more. People are very, very malnourished, and we need to get a hell of a lot of vegetables into the body. Some really good ones are onions, all of the onions, white, red, yellow, green, boiler, pearl, gold pearl, shallots, leeks, garlic, carrots, daikon, radish, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, red cabbage, rutabaga, green beans, broccolini and broccolette. Try and have some of them with each meal. They're the most important vegetables to eat. We find that they have the most, they're very good for developing the body. We do have other vegetables on the program, but they're the top ones. Try and avoid the nightshade vegetables. They're not actually vegetables, a lot of them, most of them are fruits. We don't find them to be very good. They're actually a little bit toxic to the body. So these are tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants and all peppers. You need to be eating some animal protein every day, no more than twice daily, and a portion size around 4 to 5 ounces for adults. We don't like vegetarian diets, and I'll talk about that a little bit further on. Protein foods are allowed, such as sardines, but no other fish. Chicken, turkey and some lamb or beef twice a week is good. No pork, ham or bacon. Sardines are small fish, so they don't take up as much toxic metals. All of the seas today are covered in mercury and toxins and different metals, really not good for the body. Some lamb and beef, most people are very zinc deficient. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. I've talked about it in the beginning, so including some animal meat and some protein is very, very important to get the really good quality zinc into the body, which will heal a person much, much quicker and easier. We recommend a small amount of whole grain every day, preferably organic blue corn tortilla chips. Try not to eat any wheat products or products made with wheat. If you wish, it's you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Some people are irritant to dairy, but you can have around 4 ounces of dairy every day, such as really good quality cheese, yogurt, milk, and kefir. Raw is much better, unpasteurized, etc. But they're not required on the diet. A lot of people are affected by dairy in one way or another, so if you are, skip that. Try and avoid all fruit. We don't like fruit on the program primarily because of its sugar content. Most people are very hyperglycemic, as I've mentioned, so any form of sugar, even fruits, unfortunately, are going to slow down the healing process. Try and eat organically grown food as much as possible for obvious reasons. Try and avoid all refined flour, junk food, fast food, and chemicalized food. When you're cooking food, try and use a pressure cooker. We find that to be the best. You may use a crock pot, a steamer, or stir frying. Try not to roast or deep fry the food. In terms of lifestyle, you need to rest. Massive amounts of rest, much more than you probably think. Try and get to bed early, between 8 and 9 p.m. Anytime after 9 p.m, the body starts to switch into sympathetic mode, a fight or flight response, because it's trying to keep the body awake, because it's going out of the circadian rhythm. Adults need about 9 or even 10 hours of sleep in most cases, and even children, really. Drinking water, the best water that we found to heal people is really good quality spring water or carbon only filtered or sand filtered tap water. Well water varies a lot, so be careful of that. A lot of it has manganese in there, which is not too good. Avoid reverse osmosis, distilled waters, alkaline waters, etc. with 2 yin. I talked about yin disease at the beginning. This program primarily is wanting to get people into a yang state, and that's what heals people today, because people's bodies are just too yin out of balance. Exercise, vigorous exercise is not very helpful on this program. Many people are far too tired, burnt out, low on energy, so actually doing vigorous exercise will slow down the healing process. Gentle exercise such as walking 30 to 60 minutes every day is a perfect thing to do. With regards to sex, it's very important for men, especially when you're healing. Try to reduce fluid loss as much as possible. Maximum of once a week, that is the absolute maximum, and even less if you're over 40. Basically, it just wears out the body, it depletes the body of zinc, and in most cases, you're going to find it very difficult to heal if you're losing fluid more than once a week. So there's some basic supplements. Everyone gets a targeted supplement recommendation list on the program if they was to do a hair analysis. But the ones that we recommend for adults, children need a little bit less depending on their age and weight. So we recommend EPA, DHA, or omega-3 fatty acids between 900 and 1,000 milligrams per day. Calcium chelate or citrate, 750 milligrams daily. Magnesium chelate or citrate, 450 milligrams daily. Kelp by Nature's Way, Solary or Endomet. I'll talk about Endomet a little bit later. Around 6 capsules a day, around 400 milligrams per day, 4,000 milligrams. A really powerful digestive aid, one that we recommend, is called GB3. Another supplement called trimethylglycine or TMG, around 1,000 milligrams per day for women and around 3,000 milligrams per day for men. Zinc chelate, around 20 milligrams daily, and vitamin D3, 5,000 IU daily. Now I'll write that down in the comment section. There is a website that I recommend that you can get all of these supplements from if you want to. It's much better really to get a hair analysis test to see exactly what supplements you need, but these are kind of the basic ones that we recommend to everyone. There is one supplement on there, TMG, which you can't get from the website, that I'll recommend. You have to get them elsewhere. But for various different reasons that I won't go into on this video, all of them are very important for healing, them particular ones. Now I've got some healing procedures to do. One of the procedures is called the pushing down exercise. The pushing down exercise is an exercise we recommend on the program where it's about relaxing and meditating and pushing a certain energy downwards. It allows a person to become more grounded. It allows a person to become more aware of their thoughts and feelings and old emotional traumas. It relaxes a person and it brings a certain type of etheric energy into the body. It's very healing for a person, much more healing than people think. So as much as that energy we can get into the body, the better. We recommend coffee enemas. Coffee enemas are excellent for detoxing the liver. The copper that I was talking about before sits in the liver quite a lot, sits in the brain quite a lot. Coffee enemas help to digest, to move food through the body easier, to clean out the colon. It stimulates the bile duct, which kind of helps remove toxins a lot. We have something else called red heat lamp therapy. Or sauna therapy. This is infrared saunas. We find the frequencies from infrared are very, very healing. They allow to penetrate deep inside the tissues and to extract a lot of toxins from the body. It also helps with circulation. It helps with putting a person into a parasympathetic state, which is the opposite of the chronic fight or flight state. And there's loads of other different benefits to sauna therapy. It really is a fantastic thing to do. Foot reflexology, around 10 minutes per foot, twice or 3 times a day. If anyone's familiar with meridians, they all kind of, a lot of the energy systems of the body kind of end at the feet. So basically by doing reflexology you can actually massage organs. This has been proven in science. We have fractal geometry and our bodies are based on fractals, so kind of certain areas of the body relate to other parts of the body. Very, very safe and effective healing tool. The spinal twist. The spinal twist is an exercise where you pretty much lie down on the floor and you move your legs over to one side. What this does is it aligns the spine. A lot of people's structures are pretty bad, and it's very important to kind of loosen that area up. Now, I've gone over that pretty quickly. That's a summary, really. It's a very, very large subject. For anyone wanting to start a nutritional balancing program, my name's Lewis. You can find my email in the comments section below. If you want to email me directly, my name is Lewis, Lewis, at deephealingspace.com. That's deephealingspace.com. There's another practitioner I work with, Luke Pryor. He is based in Phoenix, Arizona. If you wish to work with him, his email is also below. His email is luke at deephealingspace.com. For anyone who doesn't want to do a hair analysis, there is an ebook available in the comments below, which you're very welcome to use, which has the program inside of it. It's more of a generalized ebook. Obviously a full nutritional balancing program would be much, much more effective. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over some of the major causes of derealization and how the program tackles that. So copper toxicity. Copper toxicity, the program, the whole of the program is excellent for copper toxicity. The diet is rich in zinc, rich in minerals, rich in the nutrients that the body needs to balance out copper. Copper sits in the liver. The coffee enemas are excellent for removing copper from the liver. We have TMG, for example, in the supplements, which is a really good copper methylator, so it binds to copper really well. The meditation, the pushing down exercise, people who got copper toxicity tend to have an overactive mind, and actually shutting down the mind, calming down the mind will actually reduce and balance out copper as well. Copper has a lot to do with structure, so the spinal twist is very good for realigning the spine, and actually it does release some copper as well. The red heat lamp therapy extracts copper, balances things out. So yeah, I mean, this program in many ways is built with copper toxicity in mind, because it's so common that Dr. Wilson, Dr. Paulek, who kind of designed the program, are very, very, very familiar with copper toxicity. So the whole program kind of works together as a team to balance out copper. Calcium shell. That calcium shell is when a person feels numb, detached, withdrawn to the world. Actually, people are releasing calcium from the body to kind of counteract calcium shell. It's very good actually to supplement a good magnesium and calcium supplement, which I've recommended. That's bioavailable calcium, which allows the body to kind of come out of calcium shell. Doing the pushing down exercise as well kind of allows a person to get back in touch with their emotions a little bit and who they are. That can also reduce the calcium shell. Also, the detoxification procedures will do that as well. Bowel toxicity, the major one would be coffee enemas. That kind of detoxifies the colon and the bowels. But again, you know, re-nourishing the body, increasing the adrenal glands, etc. is really good for that. Yin disease. Yin disease I talked about before. If you want to go back and listen to what yin disease is a little bit more, then do that. Yin disease is when the body's quite expanded and cold and running around and stressed and up and sugary and sweet. That's all yin. The whole program is a very yang program. So root vegetables, for example, they're in the ground, they're very yang, which is the opposite to fruit, which is yin, which is up in the trees, etc. The sauna therapy, which is infrared light therapy, the red rays are very yang in nature. Heat is very yang in nature. Relaxation is very yang in nature. So you see where I'm going with that. We do kind of counteract yin disease with the yang program, alkaline diet. Adrenal burnout, low thyroid, the whole program kind of works together with that. It's a combination of detoxification and remineralization and rest and relaxation. So the whole program works together to heal that. Candida, you'll find that the diet on the program is very, very low in sugars and carbohydrates, has a low glycemic index. Copper toxicity is related to candida, so you need to heal copper or balance out copper to fix candida. You also need to fix the adrenal glands to heal candida as well. That's a secret to healing candida. Not many people know about that, so the program obviously works excellent with that. Hyperglycemia. The program is very, very balanced out. We try and get people to eat 3, 4, 5 or even 7 meals a day if they've got hyperglycemia. The blood sugar is not going to be going up and down as many other dietary programs. If people are eating too much fruit, this program will give a person a very, very sustained energy throughout the day, which is very important for hyperglycemia. Food and chemical allergies. Very, very, very rarely will this diet cause any food or chemical allergies. The closest one's dairy, but we say if you're struggling with dairy, kind of cut that out. So that's very safe. Any pharmaceutical problems, the program's excellent at detoxifying these pharmaceutical drugs. Again, it's about detoxifying, doing the coffee enemas, doing the red heat lamp therapy, supplementation, remineralization, giving the body what it needs to detoxify these pharmaceutical drugs. Nutrient deficiencies, obviously the 9 cups of vegetables per day, cooking the vegetables, extracting the minerals, having a digestive age, the GB3, which helps to give people more nutrient rich foods. Very, very excellent for remineralizing the body. Any hidden viral infections, a lot of the time these viral infections thrive in a yin body just by heating up the body through rest, through detox, through near infrared sauna will start to purify these hidden viral infections that can be causing DP and DR. Brain parasites, again, in order to fix parasites, you've got to heal the environment. Healing the environment has everything to do with renourishing the body, rebuilding the body, removing all these toxic chemicals and toxic metals that are causing a poor environment. Electromagnetic fields, we try and tell people to get away from them as much as possible. The infrared light therapy actually dissipates some of the electromagnetic fields, but some people are a little bit sensitive to that therapy too. It is an excellent program. In fact, I'm not aware of any other program that heals the body to an extent where people no longer feel the electromagnetic fields. They're always going to be harmful because these are unnatural fields, so we try and get everyone to stay away from them. But I personally suffered from EMF sensitivity, and it's a lot to do with copper toxicity and hardened cells and a lack of SEM permeability. So I've healed. I don't like to say the word healed on electromagnetic fields, but I don't feel the effects of EMF anymore, which is excellent. And I know a lot of people on the program that have also achieved that as well. So lack of grounding is a very interesting thing I talked about before. Lack of grounding is yin. It's upwards moving energy. It's spaciness. It's floatiness. We try and get people to do sauna therapy, which brings the energy downwards, which grounds a person. Root vegetables, yangness grounds a person. Meats grounds a person. Coffee enemas ground a person. So we're just doing the opposite of being ungrounded, really. And over time, you'll feel much more grounded and connected to the earth, which some people get derealization from being ungrounded. Chiropractic imbalances, we do say, try and see a chiropractor on a weekly basis. It's going to be very helpful. But we do give people the spinal twist to do, which is excellent at restructuring the spine a little bit. So that's very important as well. So that's everything really. Obviously, the program is much more bigger than this. This is a general overview. Thanks for watching. I understand this has been a long video, but I wanted to give as much information as possible. I want to tell you that derealization, depersonalization can be healed. I personally believe it's one of the less complex things to heal in many ways. So for anyone who's enjoyed this video, please get in touch if you want to start the Nutritional Balancing Program. Again, my email address is lewis, Lewis, at deephealingspace.com. My business partner, Luke Pryor, is luke at deephealingspace.com. You can go to our website for more information, www.deephealingspace.com. You can check out our YouTube channel, which is Deep Healing Space, where we have hundreds of videos on there at the moment. You can sign up to our membership on our website at deephealingspace.com, where you can get access to the Nutritional Balancing Program in full and extra videos on things like brain fog and finances, recipes, etc., etc. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope that's opened a lot of eyes for people and give people a better understanding about how to heal derealization, depersonalization. If you need any help, just get in touch, write a comment, and we'll speak soon. Thanks for watching. My name's Lewis Rowlands, and I'll see you later. Bye.